The Redfall fiasco, we're still seeing fallout from it, although the PlayStation Showcase definitely helped perception and momentum with Xbox. If PlayStation came out with a 1-2 punch, imagine the marketing damage that would have been done in light of what happened with Redfall. They really could have done some permanent, set themselves up as the permanent perception of this is the best platform. And they weren't able to do that. So anyways, this article dropped over on Bloomberg. Now, this is purexbox.com because I can't read the article on Bloomberg because Bloomberg puts it behind a paywall. It's 2023, Bloomberg. It's 2023. Just saying. But this is purexbox.com. Thank you, Pure Xbox. I love you guys. Report Redfall playtesters shocked at how little the game changed during development. Now, this article goes through, and it's Jason Schreier, who has some sources inside of Arcane and who supposedly worked on the game. Now, these sources are anonymous, so I am a little bit hesitant with anonymous sources. I feel like reporters can definitely get anonymous sources to skew a story any way they want it to skew. So I'm a little hesitant there. But this is all we have for now. So as of right now, this is what happened with Redfall. And ultimately, TLDR, it looks like it was just bureaucracy, essentially, that it just kept going forward off of its own momentum. There was no real decision because of employees leaving, because of an acquisition. There was no decision to continue to go and make adjustments and do this and that. It just kind of kept going off of its own momentum, despite players or developers from Prey leaving the team, despite acquisitions coming in, despite, according to these anonymous sources, developers hoping the game got canceled or switched to just a single player game. It just kept going. That, in my mind, is just the nature of bureaucracy. That's what happens. Something just keeps going off dint of its own momentum because it's there and nobody really has ownership. That seems to have been what happened. They were in this in-between stage. But let's go through some highlights here. So, first of all, neither Xbox nor Bethesda provided comment for the report, but Jason Schreier spoke to multiple developers. Again, these are anonymous quotes, so keep that in mind. Not that they were incorrect. I'm just saying. I think anonymity can be problematic sometimes. Schreier spoke to multiple developers at Arcane Austin who provided some interesting anonymous comments about the whole thing should out. Apparently, internal testers at the studio were shocked to see how little the game changed over time, namely between 2021 and 2023. Here's a chunk of the report that touched on these details. Quote, in the end, Redfall... In fact, let me highlight this. In the end, Redfall never coalesced. This is according to anonymous playtester. Several people who played the game in 2021 were shocked to see how little ultimately changed. The final glitchy product felt to some critics like a poor compromise between single player and multiplayer ideas that failed to please fans of either type of game. To me, this speaks to lack of leadership. At the top, they're in this in-between stage. I'm sure Xbox came in and never took it over. Bethesda's still working, or Arcane Studios is still working on a game that it was working on previous to the acquisition. And to my understanding, reports are saying that for Arcane or for this game, Microsoft didn't yet have full takeover, like didn't have full leadership over the game yet. So again, just shows that it just keeps going by dint of its own momentum. I'm using the word dint. I don't know if that's correct. Dint. I don't know where that word came from. It's in my head. Elsewhere, the report indicates that there were some major staffing issues at Arcane during the development of Redfall, so much so that, quote, by the end of Redfall's development, roughly 70% of the Austin staff who had worked on Prey, which is considered one of the best games to come out of Arcane Studios, would no longer be at the company. So 70% of the developers at Prey would no longer be there. So again, all of these guys who probably helped develop the idea, come up with the initial concept, had a vision for how it would go, are let go. What happens in that transition period? Is that vision able to keep going? Is it not able to keep going? And I think we saw a game come out and release that didn't have that original vision, lack of leadership, and it just goes through because of ultimately bureaucracy. The machine just keeps churning. It's said that these sorts of problems in retaining employees were down to the game's lack of direction. Basically, the balance between classic Arcane single player and the push for multiplayer was never truly figured out, it seems. Here's another anonymous source. Quote, Since Redfall wasn't yet announced, the studio couldn't describe its details to prospective employees. Oh, so they weren't able to hire developers to work on the game. They weren't able to describe the game. A predicament that exacerbated the staffing issues, sources familiar with the process said. Arcane wanted to hire recruits with experience on multiplayer shooters, but the people who applied were, by and large, looking to work on single-player immersive sims. Very, very interesting. The full report is over at Bloomberg. I wanted to talk about this just because it's interesting to look at the autopsy report. And the autopsy report clearly, in my mind here, good job by the way, Jason Schreier, Bloomberg, for having this story. Bloomberg, don't put it behind a paywall and you'll get more people over your site to read it. Instead, everybody go check out purexbox.com. I love them. Redfall playtesters shocked. I think when you look at the inside, if nothing really changed, it shows bureaucracy keeps things churning, right? I worked at a university for years and there were policies introduced there that you had to abide by, and you're sitting there like, well, why are we doing this? This doesn't make sense, but you're never able to change them because it's just there. It's the rule you have to follow, but nobody knows what the original intention of that rule was. Nobody knows what the original, why it was developed in the first place. And so you're just following this archaic rule, because of bureaucracy. That feels like what this is. That feels like what this is. There was this idea originally hatched. A lot of the people who originally hatched that idea left, and it just keeps going forward. They weren't able to hire the right people for the job. It just keeps going forward, and you're working on this original idea that nobody knows where it came from, why it came from, et cetera, et cetera. An acquisition happens, and it drops. Now, it's still Microsoft's fault on the marketing side, which has been my point all along, and I don't see anybody else really talking about this. Microsoft messed up on marketing. It does seem like that was a gut check for them, though, because I will say Xbox has been on fire on the marketing side, whether it's their community team dropping hints at Fable, whether it's their social media team dropping after the PlayStation showcase. Oh, yeah. Check out how good this lineup looks. Thanks, PlayStation, for showing off all these games that will be on Xbox. Genius, guerrilla-style social media marketing right there that punches back without punching back. Whether it's the Game Pass genres that they came up with, where like no look at the legs, chaos cuteness was a theme there, and you're showing off these games without saying that these games exist or describing the games individually. It's really smart. It seems like they got their act together. If they can maintain that kind of marketing going forward, and Xbox delivers at this game showcase, and Xbox delivers quality titles, which I think we will get with Starfield. I think Fable is actually the bigger title at the Xbox game showcase. Fable has this history, i.e. God of War. Think of what God of War did for PlayStation 5. It was this reboot, this redesign for PlayStation that has crushed it and solidified PlayStation as this single-player experience. Fable could be that. Fable could be that for Xbox. And if they continue to nail it, if they continue to make correct decisions and market correctly, I think that's the ball game. Game Pass value is undeniable. You don't have to sell Game Pass. Now you have to market correctly. Now you have to just continue to build that library of games. And I think Fable, honestly, is bigger at the Xbox Game Showcase than Starfield. Starfield's big, make no doubt. I'm not discounting the hugeness that is Starfield, but Fable is their God of War moment in my mind, where it's this classic IP that everybody knows that was a top tier game that is now being rebooted. That's what happened with God of War on PlayStation. That's what Xbox has an opportunity to do here, and I hope they do it. Regardless, I do think this was interesting. I think it's good to take a look back and see what went wrong here, and I'm sure as time passes, there may be documentaries that will be behind the scenes and we'll learn more and more. As of right now, at least according to Bloomberg and Jason Schreier, it looks like, in my mind, the way I'm reading this is just a bureaucratic mess. It just slipped through the cracks. Then Microsoft amplified that bureaucratic mess by marketing it. Anyways, I'd love to know what you guys think. Number one, do you think Fable is PlayStation's God of War moment? Or am I wrong? Am I overstating that? I may be. Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget that like button. Subscribe to this channel. My name is X1 the Gamer. We do Xbox videos right here on this channel every single day. Have a great day, everybody, and we'll see you next time.